Aakash, brother. How's it going?
I'm good, Alex. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you, man. You got some exciting stuff that you've done in your past and cool stuff that sounds like it's coming in the future. But why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Aakash. I'm the founder and CEO of Wyndly, and what we do is we provide permanent allergy relief, and we do it by training your body to stop reacting to its allergy triggers. I got into this because I just couldn't breathe for approximately 25 years.
Mm,
Uh, I spent my time thinking like only one nostril was supposed to work at a time. And I thought it was like kidneys. You technically like you only need one kidney.
mm. True.
Not
People
medical
donate it.
advice.
Yeah.
But no, apparently both your nostrils are supposed to work. I eventually got to the point where, I bet it'd be good if I got this fixed. And all the solutions out there were just impossible.
Mm,
Or like too many doctor's visits, too much time commitment. And it wasn't until I was complaining to my cousin, who was a doctor in training at UConn, and he was like, yeah, this is doable. I can treat you where you are. We can do it through telehealth. Let's figure it out. And so he fixed me. I could breathe. I still remember that first day, man, where I was like, I woke up, I breathe in, both my nostrils are open. I feel like I took like a super power up potion from Super Mario, that mushroom. I'm
mm.
like, oh my God. I started lifting better. I started running faster. I was funnier. It sounds like a joke, but life's a lot better when you can breathe and you're not operating at 50%. So yeah, he changed my life. I asked him to treat my wife. It worked for her. My wife asked him to treat my sister-in-law. So now we're three for three. That were people that were happy with it, and I was like, this is too good to keep hiding from the world. And so that's what we started trying to figure out is like, how do we get this to more and more people?
What were you allergic to, and what are the traditional treatments that are out there for people? I feel fortunate. I don't have many allergies that I know of. I don't have any allergies that I know of. Every once in a while, I'll sneeze for like 4 or 5 days in a row, and I'm like, "What's that?" And someone, you have allergies, and I'm like, "I don't have allergies." Like, no, I don't. And then it'll go away, and then I'm good. But what about you? What was ailing you?
Oh man, for me, I was like allergic to everything. So it was cats, dogs, pollen, everything around me, and then dust. It was literally like there was no place I could have gone that would have kept me safe. Maybe like Antarctica, where there's like nothing around to
Mm.
to bother you. But it was literally everything. And
What
what
would
I'd
happen
always
when we
been
got
told,
exposed to those things?
yeah, exposure matters, but I think it only matters so much because you have people that like it's not like allergies are a new thing, you know? They've been around for hundreds of years, and what we're seeing is like, yeah, exposure matters, but exposure isn't enough. It's and the like what the treatment is built on is exposure over time in a way that your body can actually adapt its reaction to, right?
So what would happen to you when you like exposed to, let's say, a cat? That's one that I hear a lot. I'm a cat lover.
Oh, dude, the
Uh,
cats are huge, right? There's actually
there's a
a
lot of
little sidebar.
incompatibilities between guys and girls when one's allergic to a cat. It's like, if you're allergic to cats, swipe off my profile. It's like,
Bro,
sorry.
that is a steady stream of customers for us. It's
I
boys
totally
who want
believe
to move
that.
in with their girls, or anyone that wants to move in with a girlfriend who has a cat. That is like actually a really like major part of our business. And
I'm not surprised by that. I dated a girl. She was allergic to cats. She came over one time. She got hives from my cat, and then I just drove to her house the following like 6 months straight. It was bullshit, honestly. But we broke up. Didn't work out.
ended up keeping the cat.
Oh yeah, that's my dog, dude.
Oh lordy, that's exactly it. Like for me, cats would just be like red eyes, itchy eyes, sneezing. Like basically, if someone had a cat, I couldn't go into their house. Um, with pollen, it would just be like for approximately from February all the way to August. Uh, if I stepped outside without taking two or three antihistamines, I would be completely unable to work, unable to live. And even with the antihistamines, they have a lot of side effects. They cause drowsiness. They cause, a lot of stuff. It's like, did I really want to be putting that in my body forever? just to exist, just to like exist at 50% instead of 100%. But whenever I tried to go to the doctor, the traditional treatment was like, well, have you tried this antihistamine? No, yes, whatever. Have you tried this nasal spray? They like take you through all the things that you go through that like we all know about nowadays because we all have Google.
Right.
You know, it's not like I don't need a doctor to tell me I need the antihistamines. This isn't the 60s. So that was always frustrating. Eventually, I get a referral to an allergist. So this is a specialist who actually just handles allergies. And man, it takes me like 6 months just to get a visit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's impossible. There's just not enough for the like over 100 million people in America who have allergies. I think the number is like 120 million. There's 6,000 allergists.
Sounds like a good business to be in, man.
Numbers don't quite add up, you know?
Yeah, right.
So there's just not enough. And so it takes ages to get in there. And then when you're in there, they're like, cool, we have a treatment. We're going to test you for your allergies. We're going to figure out what you're allergic to. And then we're going to expose your body to what it's allergic to until it stops reacting. And we're going to do this by giving you an injection every week.
Oh, jeez.
Whew, in person. So now I'm like, I got to commit to a relationship with my allergist just to get this fixed. I got to go see them every week, man.
That sounds crazy expensive. Anytime you're visiting a doctor, it's expensive. But to visit them every week?
That's exactly what it is. So also, it's just like didn't fit my lifestyle, right? Like if I'm traveling for work, I can't do this. If I'm trying to take like, you know, I'm trying to go on vacation. Okay, you can do that, but it's going to set back your treatment. And it's already, it's a 5-year treatment. So you have to be doing it for 5 years. Exactly.
Every week?
It's called allergy shots.
For 5 years?
100%. That's what it's called. It's called allergy shots.
Bro. Man, I should know the allergy business. This sounds great.
Yeah, just as first you have to become an allergist.
Yeah, well, we'll hire one of those.
There we go. But what we found out, and what I found out is my cousin, he's a doctor. He was what a doctor called an ear, nose, and throat specialist. And, you know, they were doing a lot of sinus surgeries, and they realized that, you know, sinus surgeries happen when you have really bad allergies because if you can't breathe, it's more likely to, you know, get infections and it needs a lot of work. So his specialty ENTs started treating the allergies you can breathe in. And so that's kind of what got us to, and they're not trying to bring you in every week because they want to do surgery. They got like other stuff they want to do with their time. The way they do business is different.
Yep.
So their treatment that they seem to prefer is called allergy drops or allergy tablets. So it's the exact same thing that you would get injected in you, only it's something you can take at home. It's something that can get shipped to you. But no one gets that. Like if you have bad allergies, you never get referred to an ENT. You get referred to an allergist. And that's if you take the time to go and fight for a referral in our healthcare system.
Yeah, most of my friends who are like allergic to cats or pollen or whatever, they just kind of like put up with it and they're like, this sucks. Or if it's pollen, they're just like, yeah, for like 2 or 3 months, life stinks.
That's a long time, bro. It's 25% of your life.
Right.
Like people say like, hey, if you're like, you know, if you don't like school, it's only 20%. It's like only from like what, 5 to 18. It's like 15 years out of the 100 years you're gonna live.
Yeah, those are some of the best years. All right.
or worst years. I don't know.
Yeah,
Depends.
True. Yeah, at least you're usually young and healthy.
Now we're saying, oh yeah, for 3 months out of the year, you're just going to be miserable. Like that's crazy. That's crazy that we have a chronic condition that affects this many people and everyone's just okay with it. That's so weird.
So then the solution for you was these drops?
Yeah, so this treatment is called allergy immunotherapy. The way it works is they discovered decades and decades ago that if you take what triggers your allergies and you expose someone's body to it in known dosages over time, you can actually change how the body reacts. So this sort of treatment of exposure therapy has been FDA approved for peanuts. It's been approved for like pollens. It's like all the way through. It just so happens that like it's so expensive to get and it's so difficult to get. You got to jump through so many hoops that it's not widely accessible. So, we were thinking, how do you make it widely accessible? Because it changed my life, and I think other people should get a chance to like change their lives too.
So if I was, let's say, allergic to peanuts, I'm gonna get a drop of probably some type of peanut solution of some sort. Are they probably gonna dose that to like what's safe for me? Like if I'm like
Yes.
deathly allergic, I'm gonna get tiniest little, or maybe they wouldn't even treat someone like that.
Yeah, so there's like limits, right? Like if like a peanut exists in the same hemisphere as you and you're not okay, probably not worth the risk for a doctor to take you on as a patient.
Right.
But there are doctors who are very willing to do also many of these allergens because there are known dosages. There's like basically we know what needs to happen and when it needs to happen. So specifically with peanuts, it's a drug called Palforzia. You want to do it in a doctor's office, and you go in, you take this, and then you kind of they just observe you on this first dose to make sure that like, okay, we're okay with this, we're comfortable with it, and then they adjust your dosage over time.
I see.
More generally, what these sorts of like exposure and then changing dosages, it's called oral immunotherapy because it goes in your mouth and we're shifting your immune system.
So would this hypothetically work with every level of allergy? Like let's say I am that, peanut in my hemisphere, that's going to be like, worrisome. The classic story we heard is some kid ate a peanut M&M and kissed his girlfriend. Girlfriend was deathly allergic and she died. Like I don't know if that story is even true or not. But let's say I'm like that level of allergic. Could I get my body to a point that hypothetically I could like eat peanut butter sandwich? Is that just time, effort, energy? Or is it unlikely that I'll ever be able to get like there? But like, if somebody, next to me is eating a peanut butter sandwich, I'm not freaked out.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone's body is different, and like that's the tough part about medicine is there's different outcomes for different people, right? What we have explicitly seen with this peanut stuff is if you're someone who like if you had a peanut, you would have to go to the hospital and like be at high risk of dying. This treatment got an FDA approval because it helped avoid those outcomes.
I
Right.
see. So
it's going to save this boyfriend or girlfriend who's kissing someone who had like a Reese's cup.
Yeah. All right.
I know. I think there is, I think you bring up a good point of like, well, how far does it go? It's really difficult in medicine to be like, let's test the limits of this because you're playing with people's lives.
Right.
So like, there probably is someone out there who could have a peanut butter sandwich, but the doctors are probably going to be like, let's not risk it,
Right. The benefit isn't really.
It's like you
outweigh
get
the
peanut
risk.
butter sandwiches, or you might have an anaphylactic reaction.
Peanut butter's pretty good, man. I don't know. Peanut butter was like a staple in my childhood. So what about you? Did you have to do multiple different treatments for like all of those different allergies that you had? Did you do them all concurrently? Did they all fall off?
So
like, in
mine
unison?
came
What did it look like
for
you?
me. What it literally looked like is I would get a bottle like this.
Okay.
Is a little thing. It has our logo on it, and inside of that bottle, and this is a show bottle. It's not like it doesn't have prescriptions in it. This isn't real. You just there's a little dropper, and you take a few drops every day. And what's really important is we've talked about like adjusting those dosages over time. And the way those dosages are adjusted is on a daily level. You base the way we run our practice is you get to talk to your doctor over text message
Okay.
or email, right? So like everything's going well, and then suddenly after 7 days on the treatment, you're like, I'm feeling like a little itchy today. You text the doctor, we'll say, okay, that's totally normal. This is how you adjust, and let's stay on the treatment. And then you would get shipped a new package of the medicine as that ran out, which would be at a stronger dosage also. And the goal is to get you to such a high dosage that when you encounter something in the real world, it doesn't trigger your immune response.
Now, let's say you get to that point where you've how long would that ramp up period take? I know it's probably dependent on the person.
Yeah, man, everything depends on the person. It depends on like what your allergies are. It depends on like what's around you. Are you starting in the middle of allergy season in like March or April? Or are you starting in December? What we generally see and what's reported by patients is people see within 6 weeks, they realize oh, wow, I'm having less allergies. And at 6 months, they basically forget about their allergies. Because we've basically trained their immune system to the point where it's no longer a concern.
So then, after 6 months, let's say that cat allergy, you've taken this treat for 6 months, you've progressively loaded your body, progressively overloaded.
It's just
your
like
body,
weightlifting,
just
baby.
like weightlifting, man. You've progressed up in your dose. Now I'm 6 months, and like, if
You go get your cat.
if I encounter a cat and it doesn't give me an allergy, would I stop the medicine, or would you be
Yeah.
like a maintenance dose? How would that work?
So here's what's so interesting. Yeah, like I want you to get your cat at 6 months, man. That is like a sign of success for me. I'm not the doctor though, so that specific. If that's your goal, please have a discussion with your doctor.
Right.
Yeah. So what we generally see is you can choose to stay on the treatment as long as possible. People that stay on for 6 months, the clinical data, like the results show that like you don't have allergies for about a year after you come off the dose.
Okay.
If you stay on for 3 years, you're probably going to have a decade. And if you stay on for 5 years, it's effectively a lifetime of relief.
Okay.
I wish we had better numbers, but it's just really hard to run a clinical study for more than 10 years at a time.
Yeah, people get bored of
People you need
dropping
a lot of
cat
funding.
goop into their mouths every day.
But yeah, I mean, again, this is what the medical system is already doing, right? It's what you would get. You would get allergy immunotherapy if you went into an allergist's office, right?
So why are they primarily doing shots then? Is it more effective, or are they just trying to recuperate more insurance money?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's that's an interesting way of putting it. Are they trying to recoup more insurance money? I think it
I've
comes
talked to
down
a lot
to
of people in the health industry. Sorry to interrupt you. I've talked to a lot of people in the health industry, man, and it just seems like kind of dirty, to be honest.
I don't think. I think the vast majority of doctors are not in the business to like squeeze their patients as bags of insurance money. That is a lot of schooling to end up being that type of person. I think the system, the way it's set up, unfortunately incentivizes some behaviors which
Yes.
make it difficult. But I don't blame any allergists. The way I see it is if you are a doctor and 70% of your revenue, like if you've built your business, your practice around billing insurance, and the people that come to you expect you to bill insurance, you kind of have to bill insurance
Yeah.
because that's like how everything is set up.
For sure.
And that's what and more importantly, actually, it's just what you're trained to do, man. Like, it's a good thing that healthcare moves slowly, right? You don't want your doctor trying out like a new app every year to like, let's see how this works out. Who knows what's going to happen? No, you want your doctor to be methodical and to think about the long-term consequences. Mm-hmm. So, people are saying like mobile phones only came, like mobile apps only came to healthcare in the last few years after it had been everywhere else for like 10. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So when you say, hey, why do we see allergists doing shots? I think it comes down to that's what they've been trained to do. That's what they're comfortable with. And why try something new when as a doctor, your job is to deliver good outcomes, and you can deliver good outcomes in a known manner.
So how would the pricing model work for you all? My buddy who's on the other side of this wall, his girlfriend actually is in training to be a zoologist. So she loves animals. She's around them all the time. She has a cat. He's allergic to cats, and I think he just like takes Benadryl before he goes over. I don't think his allergy is like super severe because he's not like avoiding her house. And he's actually starting to like the cat, so he's making some headway as a cat lover. So what's pricing going to look like for him? How's he going to do it? Is it through his insurance or you got cash pay?
Yeah. So this goes into like the decisions you have to make when you start a company, especially in healthcare. I think it's really difficult to launch a healthcare company, a company that either delivers, basically like delivers healthcare without making that specific decision that you alluded to, insurance, cash pay. There's actually even more, just like you can get even more finessed in there, which is like, are you fee for service? Are you like a membership model plus fee for service? But you have to know how you're going to collect revenue to pay your doctors, to pay for medicine. For me, I set out to build the healthcare experience I have always wanted. And I hate so much surprise fees. I don't know about you, man. Maybe you like when like you go to a doctor's office and then 6 months later you get a surprise bill from insurance, right?
Think about how crazy that idea is that you can get like a surprise fee. Imagine like you go buy dinner tonight from a restaurant and then 5 months from now they just like hit your card again for $20 and they're like, yeah, that's like a food increased cost. You're like, what? You can't do that. Like, I got it. This was the price at the day of the service. Like, no new prices. Sorry.
Dude, the doctors have it bad too, right? Because like they don't know how much they're going to get paid when they
Right.
provide the service.
Oh, right.
Like a surgeon, unless you're like a cash pay plastic surgeon or something, you're invoicing, you're like billing insurance. And if insurance comes back and says, we don't think you deserve this much, you have to decide as a doctor to be like, am I going to keep chasing this or do I just like write it off?
Yeah, right.
So I don't, I have opinions on who wins in these sorts of. It's neither the doctor nor the patient that's winning in this interaction. Let me put it that way. My wife had to have emergency medical surgery, and I realized that like our insurance pays for the hospital differently than it pays for the doctor, differently than it pays for the medicine, especially medicine that's used in the OR versus medicine that's used outside of the OR. Like, dude, I'm having an emergency medical thing. I'm supposed to be looking through my insurance statement to be like, how is each thing billed? It's bonkers.
Well, there's companies now out there that'll just like audit your like insurance claims and be like, all right, am I actually getting billed appropriately for the things that I'm supposed to be getting billed for? And to your point, yeah, like why would a bag of saline be more expensive in the OR than like in a surgery? It like doesn't make any sense. But there's all sorts of like weird little nuances like that.
The beauty of capitalism, where someone found an opportunity and hopefully someone's gonna save money and make money.
I think it's
yes.
I think it's a lot of like the regulatory stuff around it. Because to me, I hear people say like, "Oh, this is capitalism at work." I'm like, this isn't real capitalism. Like, if you don't know the price of product, that's not capitalism to me. Like, that's like a weird form of capture and like governmental regulation, making it so weird and difficult that you can't actually do this in the normal way. Like, if I went to a doctor, I'd go, "Can we just do this in the normal way? You tell me what it costs, and then I just pay that." Like, can we do that? Like,
They might not, right? Because like
Exactly.
as a doctor, can you do that for like one patient? Is your team set up to do that? Like, is it easy?
Well, probably not in 2024 and 5, but at some
Well,
point,
this
maybe
kind
in
of-
the history of medicine, probably.
Well,
was.
actually, so this is a good circle back. The capitalism statement was from like people found an opportunity, and they're saying like, yeah, maybe there's regulatory capture, but in this little niche, there's a way that we can provide a service that's going to save people money, and we'll be able to recoup some of that value so that we can keep existing and keep saving people money. So to go towards what you're saying, like it'd be nice to just walk in and have a flat fee. That's like what we wanted to offer people. It was like, what do you get? So we have a flat monthly fee. And with that fee, we have a membership. And with that membership, you get unlimited doctor access, right? So no fighting to see your doctor. You want to get on a call, get on a call. You want to text them, text them. You want a video chat, we can do that. Like whatever you want, we're going to meet you how you want to get talked to. Which is coming from my background, like my personal experience of having so much trouble even getting into an allergist, right? Like here is access. The second one is we're going to get you whatever medicine you need for as much as we can, right? So like, you need antihistamines, we got you. You need, whatchamacallit, you need the immunotherapy, we got you, right? Like as far as we can take it, we want it to be something you don't have to worry about. Because once you're with Wyndly, we're just going to take care of you. And then the last part is like, well, what else do people want? And I was like, they want convenience. So we're trying to do everything from home. Stuff gets shipped to you. I did not realize how often people moved until I started having to run a company that had to ship medicine around. I didn't realize how many packages get lost until I had to run a company that's shipping medicine to people. Because you don't want people to miss their medicine. So
that dang postal service, where does it all go?
oh man. But yeah, so your buddy behind the wall who's allergic to cats, $100 a month. We're going to take care of him, and he doesn't have to worry about anything except that. And like I said before, within 6 months he'll know if it's working. And if it's not working, he can cite this podcast, and I'll give him his money back.
Well, that to me is a extremely reasonable price. I mean, I would have guessed that it'd be more expensive. I mean, you look at these services like the Hims and those, and I think those are all significantly more expensive than that, and they're mostly billing you for the medicine, I would assume. But like,
no, well, it depends. So there's a few models out there. So I'm going to give you a little crash course on what's happening in medicine as far as the cash pay side is going. So you're seeing this thing called like direct primary care come out,
okay,
where you pay a flat fee for the doctor time, and then there's going to be additional fees, either cash or insurance, for like medicine or labs or anything else that's around it, right? One Medical is a little like this, right? You have a flat fee and like just to get to the doctor, and they have like that access and everything. And then if you need medicine, you have to pay a pharmacy. If you need labs, you have to pay a lab, that type of stuff. And I think Amazon's going to be very successful with One Medical because, well, I tend to not bet against Amazon, basically. Then you have like Hims and Ro, which are the two really big players, and they're doing more what we're doing in that they've tried to package it all into one price. Like you know that you want something that's going to help you lose weight, or you want something that's going to help you grow your hair back. They're going to handle all the complexity around what has to happen in medical operations, and they're going to get you what you need. And then the last bit would be like UC services. This is more common in like psychiatric care, where you're paying for just the doctor time, and then this is like on a per visit basis, and then you're paying on a per prescription basis for the medicine. So there's your little crash course on the three business models that we see evolving.
Yeah, and I think you're totally in the right place at the right time, because I think if you'd have talked to me 5 years ago and you said, yeah, you got to pay for this out of your pocket, I'd be like, I'm not paying for like health stuff out of my pocket. But now it seems like people are kind of waking up, and they're having the exact same experiences that you had, where you're like, dude, the medical system sucks. I'll just pay for this on my own. So like for me, I have like robust accident insurance, but everything else I'm just paying for basically out of pocket, like all my maintenance type health stuff, my blood work and so on.
Really? I didn't know you could pay for blood work out of pocket.
Yeah, that's what I do. So I go to Merrick Health, because if you go to your like general provider, you'll get just like a very base level blood tests. They'll be like, yeah, your cholesterol's like whatever this. And so like they won't even pretty much test your testosterone at all. Like my buddy in the office was like, yeah, I'm going to my GP, I'm going to get my blood work. I was like, get your testosterone done. And he went, and the provider was like, why do you want your testosterone? And he's like, oh, that just like feels like a normal thing. Like, and he's like, do you feel like you have low testosterone? He's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just want to get it checked. Like, I want to set some markers for myself so that 2 years in the future, when I get it tested again, I actually know, like, oh, it was 700, now it's 600. That kind of makes sense. I don't feel as good as I used to. Not just like it's 600. It's like, well, what does that mean? That's just a number. That's just an arbitrary number.
Yep.
So Merrick Health, they run like probably 75 blood tests for me. And I do it every 6 months, and I just pay out of pocket, and then I go see a provider, and the provider will say, hey, this is a little low, take boron. This is a little high, take zinc. This is a little, a little bit under what we want it to be. You could try stinging nettle or something like that. So that's what I do.
Is Merrick Health the ones with the providers, or do you see a separate provider?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so they have the provider. So, and then they can also do like other stuff. They can like prescribe you testosterone, so they can do that and things like that. I'm just there for the blood tests and the provider rate. But
no, I think that's brilliant, and I think what you're really touching on is there's been a change in how people approach their healthcare. So, and we're still seeing the side effects of the internet like being a thing, right? It's been 25 years since like Google, and it's still incredible to see the like how it's rippling through society. So like, let's say it's 1980. Your doctor is your gatekeeper. They're the expert and the authority and the gatekeeper. They're a guardian of your health. And that's because that was what needed to happen to access healthcare. Today, there's so much more information. You see a willingness to spend resources, and when I say resources, I mean time, money, attention, on buying healthcare, right? So like, this is where you see people that listen to someone like Andrew Huberman for 2 hours to figure out, well, how should I optimize my morning routine? 2 hours is a long time to spend on like a kind of niche healthcare, like a kind of niche health thing, like.
yeah.
And so what we're seeing is, and this is something I'm really enjoying getting to see at Wyndly, is you're getting this democratization and liberation of information, which was locked behind at like basically a gatekeeper. And through that democratization, people are now saying, well, how can I make this decision? And how can I work with someone who will help me explore this curiosity and actually see if there's something there? I'm sure it's going to I'm sure there's going to be some like overcorrection where people are getting like, I don't know, 12 MRIs a year or something. No one needs that.
You'll have the hypochondriacs out there getting blood work done every week. It's like maybe not necessary.
Well, it's also if you're looking for something wrong, you can always find something wrong.
I think you can definitely work yourself up into like sickness.
But that's like someone's right.
For sure. That's my thing. Like, and you talked about it that the doctor used to be purveyor of truth and information, and now everyone's out here able to do their own research. And some doctors don't like that, right? Like some doctors are like, oh, don't do internet research. And I think Jimmy Dore has a joke about this. He's like, you're doing your own research. That used to just be called reading. That's what we used to call that. He's like, I'm not allowed to read anymore. And it's like, hey, and here's what I have always thought about doctors. And I'll just be candid in saying I've had like experiences that I didn't feel like I got great levels of treatment. Like you see me for like 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes. Like if you spend a lot of time with maybe 15, maybe like you have, yes, like 15 years of medical knowledge, 30 years of medical knowledge. But I have 30 years in my body, and I have all the time in the world to go out and read forums and read about people's symptoms and read about what people are saying. And like in 7 minutes, like I don't know if you can distill all that information that you have learned from all the patients, like, but you might hear like, well, I have, headaches, and you're like, headache, okay, maybe you've had a head trauma. I'm like, no, I've not had any head trauma. You're like, it sounds like head trauma. I'm like, it might sound like head trauma, but I'm telling you it's not. And it's like, maybe you had a head injury that you don't know about. And I'm like, you're not listening any longer.
Yes.
So yes, that was kind of what led me to like, hey, I'm just going to do this on my own, like at my own leisure and under my own time. And I'm fortunate that I have financial resources to go out and do that. But yeah, I think my health is in a far better place when I just said I'm going to take this into my own hands and I'm going to start doing my own blood work and testing and get my own information so that, 20 years from now, if I go see a doctor and he's like, your cholesterol looks a little high, I'll be like, really? Because I've been tested every 6 months for the last 20 years. So I have 40 lab tests. You want to look and see like how it looks? And he'll be like, holy shit, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, it is crazy.
It's just I think you're right though. It's a different. This goes back to like medicine changes slowly, and it's because like people do what they're trained to do, and you want that. By the way, like you don't want all of medicine like hip hopping around to the latest fads. So I think it's a good thing that companies like Merrick Health, where you're getting your testing, like Wyndly, we're innovation, which eventually pushes through to the whole system. But yeah, it can be very frustrating to be dismissed by a healthcare provider. I think very frustrating is like not quite the right way of putting it. Because when I go see a doctor and when our patients come to us, they are expressing vulnerability, and it's very difficult to express vulnerability and then be told, well, your fears are not valid. And no one wants to hear that. And so I think that's why you're seeing this kind of backlash.
I mean, I've talked about it on this podcast before. I had a doctor tell me at one point, he's like, I think this just might be in your head. And I was like, okay. Like, now I'm a little pissed off because I'm like, I'm not like some weird hypochondriac. Like, I know these symptoms are real. Like, I'm pretty in tune with my body. Like, a lot of people aren't. I will grant you that. A lot of people are chugging sodas, like eating chocolate and candy for breakfast, and they're not that in tune with their body, and they don't know what feeling good looks like. But I'm pretty in tune with my body, and I know when something's going on. So if a doctor tells me like, this might be in your head, that's when I'm kind of like getting to the point of like, all right, like forget you.
I hear you, man.
So what do you think is driving some of that like distrust in the medical system? Because I think you feel it, and I think I feel it too. But I'd be interested in hearing your take on that.
I think it takes one negative experience with a provider who dismisses you, who says that you're wrong, and that experience primes you to say the system is broken and the system is wrong. So I'm going to go look for something else. And nowadays it's very easy to find people that agree with you online. And so, but on the flip side, especially nowadays, like everyone has access to medical research papers, right? Like you can find all those studies. And yeah, it's very difficult to become a critical enough thinker to understand how to read these research papers. But like, I would say being shunned by a doctor, right? Being like told that like your fears are wrong. Because that's what really is happening, by the way. When someone goes to a doctor, especially in America where like it's so expensive and it takes time and you have to like fight for it in the traditional healthcare system, you're saying like, hey, there is something so wrong with me that I had to come and see a professional, and I'm scared because I don't know why. And that doesn't make me feel good emotionally. It also makes me feel bad physically. What do I do? And then this person like makes you feel bad. It's going to turn you off to everything. I would hope that there become avenues for people to find trusted and reputable alternatives. Unfortunately, there is a lot out there, which is like, liver supplements might not fix everything. Like sometimes it is a real medical issue. And I think that's what scares me is like, who are we losing in the cracks that way?
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of places for people to have a negative experience. I mean, even just what you said, you had to wait 6 months to get into a allergist. That's wild. Like that alone.
I mean, that's a negative experience. Even if everything goes right. Here's the other thing. Like even if the doctor is awesome, having to wait to go and see them, having to deal with insurance on the back end, surprise medical bills, which might not even be because of the doctor. Like it could be because they ordered a lab and then the diagnostics company you went through coded something incorrectly. Like there's so many places for it to all fall apart. And so all of these learnings are what like drives me to make Wyndly so I'm trying to reduce as much complexity and make it as easy to understand as possible, which is flat fee membership, however many allergens you have, see as much doctors as you want, and like we're gonna fix your allergies. It's very simple.
I love it, man. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the business? Obviously, I kind of heard how you got the idea, but a lot of people have ideas. Not a lot of people actually start businesses. Very few people raise money. Very few people will go to Y Combinator. Man, just tell me about the origin story here.
I'm going to turn it around on you. Who gave you permission to start a podcast?
It's permissionless, man. I just throw in YouTube. YouTube, I guess. Spotify. Those folks.
I think the biggest change in like how I approached understanding what I could do in the world was realizing that you can just do it. And there probably are no repercussions. There might be some bad emotions, like negative emotions. Like you might be embarrassed. You might work really hard for no outcome, but nothing's stopping you from like doing, trying, and learning. So after my cousin had fixed my allergies, I was like, this is great. How do we get it in front of more people? I was like, well, how would I get it in front of more people? And we literally were like, let's see on Reddit what people are saying. And do people have access to allergists? And will they talk to us? So I literally had my co-founder, who's a surgeon, by the way. Like this is a man who has had decades of training so that he can cut into your body and remove cancer tumors. Record short form video answering questions on Reddit. And I think if you like find our Reddit account, you can like scroll back in the history and see that it's still there. And we saw that like, oh wow, people are responding to this. And then we were like, well, what if we asked them to give us money? And then people started giving us money. And then we were like, well, we need more money to like make the business work. And then that like people were willing to give us more than like $20. They were willing to give us $100. And then we were like, well, we're seeing that more people are coming from California than Colorado, which is where we have our licenses. How do we get more licenses? So it's kind of like you're allowed to do anything. And then as you start doing, you realize there are more things that you just have to get done. And I think it snowballs until somehow you have a product people want or a service people want, and then you keep going.
Well, it sounds to me like that was pretty obvious. You did these small little tests. You kind of cast the bait out, and it was very quick to be able to go, yeah, we want this. We're interested in this service.
Well, I wouldn't say it was very quick. I'm eliding the like months of effort in between.
Right.
But
it's hard to start a business, let alone a health business. So, like I don't know the backstory of like Hims and Keeps and Roman, but I imagine that had to be like a very cost-intensive process for those companies to get up and get out and get scaled.
Getting started, going from 0 to 1 is oftentimes pretty cheap. I think 1 to like 10 or 1 to 100 is where like your business is figuring itself out. Like the money flow doesn't quite make sense. You're not like healthy as far as like, okay, we know what we need to say to our customers. We understand where our customers come from. We know like all the little tweaks that make up a business and like running a business. I think that's really hard from the 1 to like 100 stage. And these are like arbitrary, like customer counts, thousands of dollars, that type of stuff. I think in healthcare, it's that like 1 to 100 where you die, because it's like you can go like fall down the rabbit hole of compliance and doing everything as your lawyers tell you to do. Or you can go down a rabbit hole of chasing insurance, and maybe insurance doesn't pan out. You can go down a rabbit hole of trying to partner with hospitals, So there's a lot of holes for you to fall down. But once you have something that works, a lot of those things like end up problems because you just keep leaning into what works.
So at what point did the need to raise funds become pretty real and serious for you?
Yeah, for us, it basically came down to a question of, is this a side business or is this a full-time gig? And like I was partnering with my co-founder, but we were both part-time, right? We were both doing like, probably 15 to 30 hours a week on it. And we were like, the questions we asked ourselves were, is there enough pull? Are we excited enough for this that we would want to take the leap? And the answer was yes. People should not have allergies. When else am I going to do that? That was so exciting for me. And then for him as a doctor, he's like, look, I'm a surgeon. I can help 2,000 people a year, or I can help 200,000 people a year, right? It's like, what is the level of impact you want to have on the world? So when we decided to go full time, then suddenly you've incurred a lot of costs because like the opportunity cost of a surgeon working on a startup is really high.
Yep.
So it was like, cool. Now, we need to have 20,000 patients. Okay, what do we need to get to 20,000 patients? Okay, we're going to need like this much in ad spend, this much in acquisition, and then like we're probably going to need to be in multiple states. And so that last question is what like really forced us that last answer is what really forced us to be like, yeah, we need money, which was just the costs of meeting all the compliance and making sure you're doing everything correct in healthcare pushed us to need to fundraise so that we could launch nationally in 2 months instead of in like 5 years.
So how do you go through that process of deciding how you're going to fundraise? Who you're going to fundraise through? Is this your first time raising funds?
Yeah, actually it was. It wasn't my first time like trying to start a business, but it was my first time raising funding. So this takes us to Y Combinator. Y Combinator has a public application. Even if you don't apply, it is worth going through the application.
Okay.
Because it helps you, it asks questions that challenge you on how you think about your company. Specifically, how big can this be? How do we get there? What truths need to happen? And then it tests your are you solo? Do you have the right skill set? All that jazz. And then the other good thing that Y Combinator does, and you can do this without going through the program, everybody. You could do this for your podcast, Alex, right? It tells you to pick one metric that if you were to move that in the right direction, you would inevitably be successful. So this metric almost always is revenue. Crazy how that works out.
Jeez, those guys are geniuses.
But there is something so incredible about focus and giving yourself permission to say, revenue is all that matters. I'm going to let my costs run out of control. Revenue is all that matters. I'm not going to worry about this other thing, right? About whatever is off to the side. It is a very strong focusing lens. I think it works when you're really small. I think as you get larger, you need to add a little bit more nuance. Like, okay, revenue matters, but are you just discounting? Are you giving stuff away so that you're praying for revenue in the future, right? So you kind of start looking for leading metrics so that for let's say for a podcast, your revenue comes from sponsorships or ads. Well, what's a leading metric to that? Viewership. Okay, cool. So viewership is what matters. And now you have another lever for you to start running at. I still try and focus the whole company around one key metric, which is how many patients are we helping every single month? And is that number going up every single month?
So you go through the Y Combinator application. Not sure if you really are going to do much with it. What occurs then?
We do the application. We weren't going to submit it. And then we were like, look, we did the work.
Might as well hit the submit button.
We
bro.
might as well submit it.
Yeah.
We submit it. We get invited to interview. And this goes back to the like things you don't need to have permission for. I'm like, okay, when else have I had to interview in my life? For jobs and for college. Okay, what is like, how do people train for those interviews? And then you're like, oh wait, people do mock interviews. They do practice reps. So I'm like, okay, how do you do practice reps for a Y Combinator interview? Well, you email a bunch of Y Combinator founders saying that you have an application and ask if they have time to do a 15-minute mock interview.
Smart. I like that.
And they're like 90% are going to ignore you, but like maybe you get 10 reps in, and that's 10 reps that you didn't have, and you return their goodwill by telling them that they were helpful right there. You tell them the outcome after, you like close the loop, right? You tell them the outcome afterwards. And if you really, really want to go above and beyond, 1 year later, like 6 months to a year later, you follow up one more time being like, hey, thank you again. This is where the trajectory has gone. I appreciate you.
I find that most entrepreneurs are relatively generous with their time, and they're quite willing to help out people who are interested in business because they feel like I got this gift. Maybe someone gave the gift to me of business, and maybe I didn't deserve the gift in some way, shape, or form. It just kind of found me, and now I want to pass it along. Not everybody. Some people are like, "Oh, my time's so valuable. Like, I could never talk to this, young 23-year-old about this." But like, I think a lot of people are interested. Like, yeah, like sure, I'll give away my time and try to help you out a little bit.
I think most people are willing. It's just because like everyone, I think most people know what their lucky breaks were, and it feels good to give it. Like, I've yet to find someone who doesn't enjoy giving advice and then being told they were right like 6 months later, right? Like,
especially when you're like, dude, you're an expert. Tell me how you did this thing. You're like, yeah, I am an expert. I'll tell you everything I know.
I think what differentiates, especially in today's world, everyone thinks like, oh, I'll send a question to like, hey, can I pick your brain? I think people want to help you if you're credible. And the way someone can build credibility is by showing like, I'm thinking one level deeper than the surface level, and I've already tried to learn, right? So for example, instead of just being like, hey, I saw you're a Y Combinator founder, I have an interview, can I do a mock interview? That's not like super helpful. It's like fine, right? But what is probably more helpful would be like, hey, I saw you're a founder. I really like X, Y, and Z for X, Y, and Z reason. I'm doing ABC. I have a mock interview on such and such date. Here's what I've tried to do to get good at the mock interview. Can you give me any feedback? Or can I just do a 15-minute mock interview with you? And that little bit of like, this is what I've tried to do already shows that you're not trying to waste people's time.
So how eventually, once you get the interview, how does it go?
Dude, I like the mock interviews. I was horrible. This one incredible man, founder of Gainful, Eric, he mock interviewed us twice, right? And so this goes back to like,
He went, you guys sucked the first time.
Oh my God.
Do you need to go again?
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, I've seen this brand, Gainful.
It's exactly what it was, man. He was very kind with his initial feedback, but I was like, and then I asked him, I was like, well, would you let us in? He's like, not after that interview. I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. But you need someone to tell you that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, he was kind enough to give us a second one. And I think that like being told you're bad, being told how to improve, and then demonstrating that we did improve is like magical. And then after that, we were ready to go. We interviewed with Y Combinator. That was incredible.
What's their interview process like? Obviously, you submitted the app. Now you're on to phase 2.
Yeah, you submit the app. It's just gone, right? It's like college admissions. It's just gone. You hope you get in, or you're going to get a denial letter months from now. they invited us to interview. We were told that we had to pick an interview slot within the next 5 to 8 days. So it wasn't a tight turnaround time. And then once you pick the spot, like Y Combinator is those interviews, they like give you $500,000 off a 10-minute interview. So every minute you're talking, I don't know what that like math comes out to, but like every second is worth hundreds of dollars on that call, I think. So they are very much like
$833 a second.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty
I don't know
good.
any other time in my life I'm gonna ever
And we thought lawyers made good money per hour.
So it's like, I think what they're looking for is to evaluate you as quickly as possible. And the way they do that is they don't like, it's not like Shark Tank where you hear the whole story, right? They're like digging, they're zigging and zagging. They're just like trying to break into what the ground level truth is. And your job as the interviewee, as the founder, is to make that easy for them by not talking in fluff, by giving direct answers, by showing, by demonstrating that like you're good at what you do because you're able to talk clearly about it. We spent the first, so we had 2 interviews. The first one was 10 minutes, and it was solely a like, is this healthcare nonsense?
Oh, I see.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
applying and we were like, it's magical and everyone should be on it, which is still true, by the way.
I'd take a supplement that made me taller, but I just don't know if it's real. Like, I'd pay $2 million for that.
And then the second interview, we got called back basically. So, like if you're auditioning for a TV show, you get a call back. And then in the callback, it was entirely grilling us on like, are you guys, like how well do the 2 founders know each other? How are you guys going to be able to get this to market? And then like, why hasn't this happened yet? Right. Those were the
Why
3
do you
big
think that it hadn't happened yet?
It still hasn't happened, right? Like there's 120 million people with allergies that should not exist. And like the reason I keep repeating that is because like 100 years ago, people in America had crooked teeth.
True. Yeah.
Now you get braces, and now you get those like clear aligners, and it's surprisingly affordable, right? It's like hundreds of dollars affordable to get your teeth straightened. Why should anyone have allergies, right? Like people don't have to have crooked teeth. They don't need to have allergies. Like this is a solvable problem. So it still hasn't happened fully. I think it comes down to like who can educate the customer, who can like create a change in the market on you don't have to have antihistamines. Because like now you're going to think about it come spring, every time you see like a Zyrtec ad or a Flonase ad, and you're going to see a sheer amount of advertising, which says if you have allergies, you need to take antihistamines instead of a natural permanent fix. It's wild. So that's why.
So second interview, clearly it goes all right.
It goes well. We get in. What
does that mean? I got in. I'm
it
in
means
the club.
it means they probably internally to them they have some database or like a Notion. It's probably not a Notion database, but like they have some database where they're like, okay, these guys are interviewees and now they're accepted. You get an email telling you you get a call. On the call, they tell you that you're accepted. And then the next day is the first day of the rest of your life because you realize that like the credential doesn't mean anything. Like there is a graveyard of Y Combinator startups that have a ton of press around them. There's a graveyard of like startups that raised hundreds of millions of dollars that had a ton of press around them, right? So these like things which I initially thought were like, oh, I've made it, I realized are just the beginning of the job.
Yeah.
Beginning of the work.
Well, they're also seeking out like high risk, high reward startups, obviously. They're probably not investing in plumbing businesses. It's like that'd probably work, but you're probably not ever going to make $1 billion off of it.
I mean, they invested in car washes, and I think that's going to be $1 billion company.
Yeah, well, car washes are good. Maybe trying to launder money. Don't come after me. I'm sure they're not. I'm
I
sure
didn't say
they
it. I didn't say
aren't.
it.
So when you're accepted, does that mean that they're making a financial commitment or not
Yes.
necessarily?
Yes.
All right, so that is
they send
the
you legal
part.
docs. You sign the legal docs. They tell you how to set up a bank account. You set up a bank account, and then they wire you the money,
Shoot.
and
And
then you go.
yeah, so like, just maybe clarify that for me. What are they getting in return?
They have a specific deal. You can read about it. For us, it was $125,000 for 7% of the company. I believe now they do $125,000 for 7%, and then $375,000 on your next valuation.
I see. That's too bad.
It's okay.
Yeah, I
300K
mean,
is not going to make or break my company.
well, in the early days, it might. Shoot, I mean, I don't know how
That's
many.
like a really interesting statement because I think you can say that about a lot of things when you start a company, and like you should be able to just like barrel through it as a founder, right? Like if 300K makes or breaks your company, I don't think it's on the company. I think it's on the founder and like the willingness to do the work. Also, like with Y Combinator branding and like all of that jazz, you unlock a lot of doors. People respond to your emails, that type of stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never raised money, so we took this company and bootstrapped it. We put about $1,000 in each partner and reinvested that, sold some stuff, reinvested it, sold some stuff, reinvested it, and now any moment in time we have give or take $5 to $6 million in inventory. So I'm
That's
with you.
crazy.
I mean, $100,000. It's like I'd rather keep that, but it's not going to make or break us. But I could understand if you're very early on and you have zero customers, it's like we might. And if also if you're a first time founder, I mean, clearly the Y Combinator is doing their homework, but you may not know where to start at that point in time. Are they giving you like business consulting, or is it like, hey,
Yeah. So the whole program, what they really give you is they give you a community of people who are all trying to do the same crazy thing as you.
I see.
And I actually think you see this even outside of startups, right? Like, so you see this a lot with like artists and you see it a lot with creators. And when I say creator, I mean like creator in the current sense of like YouTuber or something or TikToker, where like if you're able to create like a group of 5 to 10 people that are all just like trying to make something happen, you're sharing learnings really aggressively, but also there's like a little bit of a competition. Because you know what feels bad, Alex? When you're getting dinner with someone and they're like, yeah, we both have no revenue. And then a week later, they're like, we closed our first customer. Now we're doing $1,000 a month. And you're just like, oh, well, what did I do wrong? Like, how do I just like will this into being?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm kind of challenging your like 100K, 300K, like a lack of dollars for a first time founder does not stop them from booking their first like $100 of revenue. I think you need a ton of money if you want to do something like OpenAI. But like, sometimes that just isn't like, that might not, if you're a nobody coming out of a rural high school in Virginia, maybe you need to realize this, I'm talking about myself, everybody. Maybe you need to realize that like no one's going to take a chance on you to give you $1 billion to build like general AI. So you need to take some baby steps to get there first.
Well, I mean, it seems like you said you had started or thought about starting business before this, but it sounds like you found a lot of success getting through this process pretty early on.
Well, I mean, okay, let's talk about it. So I think like business is a willingness to like do something without permission and kind of push through barriers. So in high school, I had a little tiny business. I think we made like $150 turning VHS tapes into DVDs,
Counts though. I'm gonna count it.
which I don't think anyone under the age of 20 knows what either of those things are.
Yeah.
And then And like I had another gig like selling some stuff at the beach, just like seeing if anyone would buy. And then in college, I tried to build a tool to sell to college students. What it really is just like you're trying over and over and over. And through those trying, you're getting reps in. And those reps are building tastes, they're building skill, they're building ability. And so this is our first business, yeah, but it's probably my first startup. It's not my first like entrepreneurial effort, is how I'd put it.
Yeah. And I tell that to people all the time. Like, if you want to become a business owner, stop like hypothesizing. Stop, being a wantrepreneur. Like, you have to get out there and do something. Like you said, sell something at the beach. Like, I don't care what you do, but you're going to learn so much more from doing something like that than you are like reading another book, taking another course, or even going back to school, getting your MBA. Like, dude, like, stop waiting. Like, you have to get out there and actually start doing something, start making some motion. Because if you don't do that, you're going to be like a lot of people who are like, yeah, next year I'll start the business. Yeah, next decade. Yeah, next chance I get. And then before you know it, you got a wife, you got kids, you got a house, you got to put the kids through college. And it's like, I can't quit my job. That's crazy, man. You're a surgeon. You're like, I got 2 houses and 2 cars. Like, surgeons do well for themselves. They got to have a couple houses. So it's like pretty tough to quit your job and leave and just be like, now I'm going to do my startup, because you just kind of kick the can down the road so far out into the future.
You're also choosing to start your like compounding really late, right? Mm-hmm. Like every rep you get, you're going to get stronger. You're going to get better. So do you want to start your reps when you're 50 or do you want to start them when you're 25?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just crossed over 10 years in business. So September 14th was our 10-year in business mark. And it's just at this workshop last week. And I'm meeting business owners. They're like, okay, I've been in business for 2 years. I'm like, geez, like, man, I remember being in business for 2 years. And I'm like, I just feel lucky that I'm like, I got an 8-year head start on you. But I'm going to feel that way in 5 more years, in 10 years. Be like, holy, I was so stupid when I was, 10 years in business. I didn't know anything about how to run a business. So at your point, yes, it does compound over time, and you're just going to pick things up that you wouldn't have picked up if you weren't doing it.
I mean, think of where you are like at year 10 versus year 5, right? And you were probably impressed with yourself at year 5 compared to year 1, right? Like just letting yourself you're like investing in the best thing for someone to invest in, which is themselves. And you're doing it without asking for permission, and like, it's just so much fun to be able to indulge your curiosity whenever you want.
Yeah, I've heard it said that business is a personal growth endeavor masquerading as a capitalistic pursuit. That's really what it is. Just like, I'm trying to learn more about myself, test my abilities, figure out what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, push into different avenues that I think I can learn out and maybe I should for my business's sake. And as you get more people, now it's like, hey, now I got a responsibility to all these people to lean in, do the right things for them. So it's been a process, man.
Oh, dude, the like hiring people, my God.
How many people are on your team? Do you have a group?
We're up to 12, 12 full time, and then about like 6 or 7 contractors.
Yeah.
I think that was like a initial change for me, was like your first hire, and not your first hire, because your first hire kind of knows they're like signing up for something ridiculous, but like your like 15th, 16th hire, they're like, oh, this is just a business. Everything's just working.
Yeah.
And then as the founder, you're like in the back of your head being like, is everything on fire today? No? Okay, good. And that's what's tough.
Yeah, we got a staff of 40, so it's madness, and we're all actually in the office every single day, 9 to 5.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
I'm a
so
little
it's
jealous.
like yeah. I don't know, man. It's humming though every day. We're actually moving to a new facility because we're like out of parking spaces, out of bathrooms, out of workstations, like out of spaces for people and computers. So
it's fun to earn those problems, like that's how I think of it. Like, you got to earn the next stage's problem, right? Mm-hmm. You got to earn like something that's common is like once you reach like $100 million in revenue or whatever, you have like a full brand strategy team and you have like a creative director. And I'm like, I want to earn that problem.
Mm-hmm. So as far as the company goes, what are the next steps? Like, what are the things that you need to do to unlock that next phase and start to push towards all 120 million of those Americans not needing to worry about allergies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm really thinking about is like you can build a very exciting, very interesting business like with ads nowadays and like making sure that the money you spend turns into money that you collect.
Hmm.
But I want like to reach everybody to like really make sure that we eliminate this chronic condition. You can't do that just through ads, you know, like, and I'm constantly thinking about how do we take a medical treatment and make it accessible, easy to understand, and an obvious choice for everyone, right? I want it to be like not even a question that you do it. I want it to be like, oh, we realized that when someone is on allergy immunotherapy, they don't get asthma and they don't, and like, you know, high school educational scores go up. So it's good that like, like it's just good that we address this because, and I don't know quite how to make that happen, but the levers I'm tweaking right now is just getting out there, telling more people about it, and seeing what message resonates and what helps people understand what we're doing.
Well, I think it sounds to me like, and really, we spent the first, 20, 30 minutes of this conversation, and you spent the first 10 minutes of your time with Y Combinator just like educating them. To me, it's really an education problem. I need to educate the American public that, hey, this therapy works, and it's also accessible, and you can do it online. I think that's like that has been a benefit that you're taking probably some leftover improvements from someone like Keeps or Hims, because they're like, hey, like hair loss treatment works. You just have to do it. Like this is like a pretty well established science. You just have to do it. Whereas guys might have impact. I've even had people be like, no, those hair loss treatments don't work. And I'm like you don't understand the science. Like, yes, it does. This has been like a medication for like 30 years. Like it's a pretty well established like medicine. And then there's truth of all the different things. But I think for you, it's just like establishing people, hey, this is real. This is not pseudoscience. This is still a prescription, right? It's considered a prescription.
It's a prescription. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you're talking to your doctor so regularly in case we need to tweak your prescription.
Yeah. You're getting a prescription that's pretty well established. And I think for you, the best thing would be just like testimonials. Like, I think your probably ability to get referrals from folks will just, like you said, you referred your wife and your cousin, and before you knew it, like you had your own little referral network. I would imagine once one person is like cured of allergies, like they're going to want to spread the word high, wide, and far, which is not true of things like Hims, like ED treatment or hair loss treatment. Like, you don't want to tell your friends about that. You're not going to tell your friends like, I had incontinence and I fixed it with this. It's like, I'm not going to spread that.
I don't think there's definitely an age group which does spread that.
Maybe,
but it's a little different. No, I hear you, and I think you've hit the like problem. You've like identified the problem 100%. It's like education is hard and expensive, generally, and like Hims and Row, they don't have to educate anymore. You go to them because you want to lose weight. You go to them because you want to get your hair back. You already know the outcome. I don't know, man. There's really big pharmaceutical budgets all set on saying you have allergies. We want you to take antihistamines for the rest of your life. And I'm like, you have allergies. Get on a treatment for a few years and then don't worry about it ever again, right? I'm turning recurring revenue into like a very small amount of money.
Do you think that the administration that's coming in will change anything at all? Do you think that, I'm sure you've thought a little bit about this, right? Because, RFK and Trump, they want to make America healthy again. Now, what is their actual plan to do that? That seems to remain to be seen. Have you thought about that at all? Or do you think this is probably just going to be like business as usual?
I think my company does not live or die. We're not big enough. We haven't earned the problem of worrying about regulation. and trying to affect regulation. But if there is one thing I wish for, it's like someone to help that like average person worry less about their healthcare costs, especially when they lose their job. I think like there's so many people that should try entrepreneurship, that should try like working for themselves and willing something into the world. And the fact that we've tied healthcare to having a like W-2 job, I think it makes starting a company like a really, really risky endeavor for so many people.
Oh yeah.
And so I would love for an admin to come in and say, we want to boost entrepreneurship. We realize that health is something people worry about, and we're going to help you not worry about your health if you're trying to make something happen.
I mean, I can speak to that because I personally don't think companies should be tied to their employees' health care. It's like a weird thing. Like, do I have to pay for your car insurance? No. Like, well, why do I have to pay for your health insurance? Like, that's just an odd thing to me. I'm sure the counter argument is, well, like the employee's health is, an investment in back into the company, and like that's an asset for the company to have healthy employees. And I'm like, I guess it's an asset for me to have employees with cars too. So like, well, where does that stop? It's an asset for me to have employees that have homes and like food on their table. Like, where does that logic
Well,
stop?
you know how it happened, right?
I don't know if I do know a lot of the history behind it.
During World War II, a lot of American history can be tied back to that sentence right there, by the way. Like during World War II.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That's where income tax withholding came from also?
It was some war. I don't know exactly which one. But specifically this one, there was wage freezes. So you couldn't increase people's salaries. So you had to do other things to help people. Like you had to compete, like employers had to compete on other things.
Interesting.
And so what they chose to compete on is like, well, people need healthcare, so we'll help subsidize their healthcare. We're going to offer health insurance. And what's hard is like once something starts happening, it's really difficult to undo it. And so now we have a system where you're going to pay for your healthcare somehow. It just ends up being a lot easier for everyone for it to be done through employer than directly. But
During World War II, Congress introduced payroll withholding and quarterly tax payments with the vote of the Current Tax Payment Act of 1943. In their history of the U.S. tax system, the Department of Treasury describes tax withholding as greatly easing the collection of tax for both the taxpayer and the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Yeah, greatly ease the tax collection. Boy, howdy, that was a nice.
There's actually a business lesson in there too.
Yeah.
It's called pulling your cash flows forward.
Yep. And you know what's funny about that is that the person that actually helped them draft this income tax withholding is Milton Friedman. And he became like one of the very famous libertarian economists that's like the government needs to get out of Americans' wallets and lives. And somewhere along his deathbed, he said that was the single worst thing that he ever did was advocate the federal government because he told them it should be a temporary thing. And obviously, as you just stated, rarely things are temporary.
I think it's hard to get things temporary in society.
Well, it's hard to get money going in your pocket and make it temporary. You start to like that, man. It starts to feel nice.
And then once you have the money, you got to start spending it.
That's right, baby. Hey, got to keep up with the Joneses. That's what we did.
Yeah, but like, dude, that's gonna have to go into like a case study if I ever lecture or something. Like, the largest company in the world, the U.S. government, they were fighting a war and they need to pull forward revenue. How'd they do it?
Yep, and
Like
control the money supply. When you control the money supply with customers, it puts you in an advantageous position.
Sometimes people will ask me like, do I need to fundraise again? And I always challenge them, what have you done so you don't need to fundraise? And it's so often like, have you tried increasing prices? Have you tried introducing an annual plan? Have you tried, those are oftentimes the two biggest things you can do, right? Like, because I think startup founders are really afraid to ask for more money.
at this workshop that I was just at last week. This would probably be interesting for you and your business, but there's apparently like sound data around billing frequencies. And if you bill your customer less frequently, their retention rate increases. It's like, yeah, that makes sense, I guess, because they can't cancel once they already paid. So like if you're billing like monthly, they see that charge over and over and over and over again, and they're like, what is this stupid allergy charge? Like I haven't even used that. I haven't even talked to my doctor in a couple of weeks, right? So they had like percentages attached to like how much the lifetime value of a customer increased if they were just billed less frequently. And I was like, wow, that's genius. Yeah, we don't actually bill our customers, so like if I did, I would have totally done that. And one of the other like unlocks, and this might be interesting to you, he said, I just started billing my customer every 4 weeks. So I just tell the customer we bill you every 4 weeks. But you, smart Mr. Money Guy, there is not 48 weeks in a year, right? There's 52 weeks in a year. So he's like, so you actually get another billing cycle. I was like, damn, that's like kind of ninja right there. It's not billed on the same day, but me as a customer, I'd be like, cool, they bill every 4 weeks. I'd be like,
it sounds like a month, but it's not a month.
It's not a month, right?
The other thing is like, the more often you bill, the more likely there is to be a failed credit card, because people lose their cards, right? Yep. And so like you're making, again, difficult to like collect, and there's like a lot of work that has to be done to like reactivate somebody. And if you ever want to suffer through every trick in the book, try and cancel a New York Times subscription.
I don't know. I've never tried to cancel that, but I have HBO through my Roku, and I like no one can cancel it. It's like this amorphous thing. Like it can't be canceled. Like HBO sends me to Roku. Roku's like, no, you have to do that through HBO. I'm like, no, you don't. That's not true. You get back to HBO, they're like, that's actually through Disney now. Like you have to call Disney, and I've had it for like 4 months, and I'm like, I guess I'll just watch these shows that they're offering to me. I'm watching Industry, this
Actually,
one about London finance. Like it's pretty good, I guess. I might as well get my freaking money's worth.
Dude, I just looked up the New York Times, billed at $4 every 4 weeks.
There you go, brother. They're doing all hacks. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. This was a lot of fun. Tell people about where they can find you, where they can get information about treatment. I'm going to spread the word to all my allergic friends. But
yeah, look, the easiest way to get started is Wyndly.com. There's a big link that should say "See a doctor," book a doctor's visit, something along those lines. Click it, and we'll get you right in front of a doctor. Like I said, we have a program which we're going to do everything we can to get you feeling as good as possible in 6 months. And if you're not there, if you haven't seen results, if you've taken the medicine, mention this podcast, I'll give you your money back. And I guess we're going to have to turn this into a money back guarantee. Someone in my team is going to get really frustrated at me.
Hey, I mean, it might increase your conversion to a point that it makes sense.
Wyndly.com, Wyndly. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on X. You can email me directly, Aakash@Wyndly.com, or I also look at my LinkedIn messages. I can't look at my X messages because there's just like a ton of spam in there. So,
dang it, Elon! Come on, help the guy out.
Send a message through. If it's considerate, I will promise to get you a response. If I think it's spam, then I won't get you a response.
You probably also have Y Combinator people be like, "Ooh, he told me to do a mock interview with him."
That's fine, and I have people I can send you through. I told you how to ask the question. I told the listeners how to ask the question.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Very cool, brother. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with the company. Sounds like you have a great product. It sounds like it's on its way.
Thanks so much for having me on. This was so much fun.
Thanks,
See you,
bro.
man.